everyone, and welcome to another Mate Nason video. In this video, I'm going to be looking at my favorite games at the 6-player count. This is my second video in my series talking about games at all the different player counts. As you know, a lot of games say they can play from 1 to 6 players, but normally it's not good at that big of a range. So these are 10 games that I think work really well at 6 players. A little bit of a caveat to my list. The game at number 1, I think, is perfect at 6. While the game at number 10 or 9 are games I think is really good at 6, but is also good at other player counts. So as the list goes on, it starts to focus in more on that 6-player count. So let's jump into it. Coming to number 10 is Skull. Skull is a very fun card game. It can play from 4 to however many people, depending on how many Skull cards you have. I think probably around 6 or 7 is where it's going to start tapping out. Skull is a simple card game where you each lay a card down, face down in front of you, either a Skull or a Rose card. And then players go around the table trying to make guesses of how many cards they could flip over before flipping over a Skull. If they can do it, they win that round. The 6-player number on this game makes it shine, as there's a lot of different players and things you have to keep in mind of, would this person put down a Skull or would they not? It just works best at 6, although it is fun at 5 as well. Moving on next to my number 8 is a great game called Ethnos. Ethnos is an area control game. Very few area control games can work at a 6-player count, but Ethnos does, because of how simple the turns are. In Ethnos, you're trying to collect sets of cards, and then you play them in order to put one of your control discs down on a region. Your turn is very simple. You either take a card that's face up on the table in front of you, working towards that set you're going for, or you play all the cards in your hand and cash in that set to put down one of your discs. It's not uncommon to play a game of Ethnos with 6 people where someone will do their turn and then boom, it's their turn again. It goes that fast. And the game has a very fun mechanic where all the cards can do some different special abilities. So it's got a lot of good strategic depth to it as well. Fast turns, fast play time, easy to grasp rules, and a lot of strategy. It works great at 6. I've also played it with less players, and it works good at those counts too. Coming to number 8 is Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica is a great betrayer game where one player, maybe more, depending on your player count, could be a Cylon trying to destroy your ship, where everyone else is working together to keep the ship moving through space and not getting invaded by the Cylons. The turns are pretty simple, where you go around taking an action on the ship. Maybe you'll try to fight some of those Cylon ships. Maybe you'll try to get the ship ready to jump further to get away from the pursuers who are after you. And then a bad thing happens, and you all have to work together to put in cards to put down whatever crisis came up. That's where the betrayer could start sliding in cards to foil your plans. It works wonderful at 6 players because you really don't know who that betrayer could be. And the turns are fast enough that you don't get bored when you're waiting for the other people to go, which can be an issue with 6-player games. So check out Battlestar Galactica. Coming in at number 7 is History of the World. Now you might be familiar with Small World, which is a very popular area control game. Well, Small World is actually based off of History of the World. It was the original, so to speak. History of the World, you're only going to take 6 turns in the entire game as you play through 6 different eras. And on each era, you will play down a civilization of that time. Romans, Gauls, barbarians, even the British Empire. And as you play that card down, you'll get so many armies, and then it's a simple game of Risk. You're rolling dice and trying to spread your army around the map, and at the end of the round, you get points for how far you went out. And you do that 6 times. The game comes with a lot of strategy, though, as all those different empires or kingdoms, civilizations are drafted every round. And so you can take a look at those and try to decide where on the map do you think you want to pop up with this civilization. You're also drafting special ability cards that you can play on these rounds as well to give your empire just a little edge. The game can have some downtime as you're waiting for these players to take their turns. But you are interested in it, it's fun, the dice rolling is exciting, and if people stay focused, it doesn't take that long in between turns. Let's check out History of the World, a great area control game. Coming in at number 6 is a game from one of my favorite designers, Matt Garrett's, and this is Imperial. Imperial is an area control game in all but, actually, it's not an area control game. It looks like an area control game. Instead, it's a stock market game. You will be playing as different investors, investing in different countries during World War I. Whoever has the controlling share in that country will get to make decisions, such as building tanks or navies, or where to attack. Which is all well and fun, but don't let that distract you. Because the real strategy of the game, the real winning condition of the game, is having the most money at the end. And if a country is doing well in the war, that means that country's stock goes up and it's worth more. And so you'll want to invest more into that country. And so it is a game of stock manipulation as you attempt to gang up on the leader to devalue their stock, or invest in that country and help them win so your stock will be worth more. It is a fun twist on an area control mechanic. Check out this game. Coming in at number 5 is a game that really only should ever be played at 6 players, and that is Lifeboats. Lifeboats is a fun game with kind of a morbid theme. Everybody is on lifeboats, trying to move across the ocean to get to safety. However, every turn, players will collectively vote on one ship to spring a leak. That ship then has to kick one person out of the boat to make room for that leak. And so you are voting on ships to sink, and then the ships are voting on who to kick off. The negotiation is hilarious in this game. There's a lot of fun and strategy as well as you're trying to figure out where you should put your people on these boats and trying to sway people into voting for other people's characters or other people's boats. A lot of fun. That is Lifeboats. Coming in at number 4 is another area control warish game, and that is Quartermaster General. This again looks like an area control war game, but it's not. It's more of a game of trying to build supply lines. But one of the fun twists of this game is its team concept. It's 3 versus 3, as 3 people will play the Axis and 3 people will play the Allies during World War II. Each round is simple, where you'll play a card to either do an attack, maybe get some more units, maybe move some units. And so you're working together in order to expand across the board. Conquering different capitals will give you points every round, and you need to hold on to them. But since you can only play one card a turn, the strategy of that teamwork really comes into play, trying to help each other as much as possible. The turns go fast, the rounds go fast, and the game is a lot of fun. Quartermaster General is a great team game, 3 versus 3, 6-player game. Make sure you check it out. Coming in with the top 3, we have some heavier games. Most of the other games before this were a little bit more lighthearted, or at least had some of that ease of entry. These 3 games are going to have a lot more strategic depth. The first one is Game of Thrones, the board game. Game of Thrones, the board game, recreates the lore of those wonderful books, where you will play as one of the houses trying to establish yourself as the king. The game is basically risk or diplomacy, except there's no dice. You play cards to resolve combat. And the diplomacy aspect comes in as every round you have to give simultaneously orders to all your armies, whether they'll move, attack, defend, or even help out neighboring allies. And that's what the game's about, negotiation and shifting alliances. Hey, can you help me attack over here? Put down a support. Let's take this person out. And then when they reveal that order and it turns out they double-crossed you and they're attacking you now, it's crazy. The game is full of strategy like that, where you're trying to figure out how much to help someone and when is the right time to switch that alliance, betray them, and get yourself the victory. The game has not a co-op aspect of it, but you do have the wildlings that are attacking from the north. And every round you will have to work together in order to stop that, or else you'll all be punished. You can also become the king, become the master of whispers. You get all these different roles that you would have just like in the books on the King's Council. The game is a lot of fun. Plays in a long time, can take 6 hours to play, but it is worth it. And that is Game of Thrones, the board game. Coming in at number 2 is a classic in the 6-player genre, and that is Dune, or my preference, Rex. Both are practically the same game. One is from the IP, of course, of Frank Herbert's Dune, and the other is from Fantasy Flight's Twilight Imperium. In both games, you're doing area control, trying to control these different regions on this map in order to get currency to build more troops, and if you can hold all these different regions at the end, you will win. The game has an interesting alliance phase, which I think is wonderful. Certain times during the game, you can form alliances with other players. And if you do form that alliances, the number of strongholds or special places on the map you have to hold becomes more. You have to get more as a team. However, the twist of this is you can't break the alliance. Unlike in Game of Thrones, the board game, or other games where alliances are more tangible, this one is locked in. You can only break alliances at certain parts of the game, where the game asks you if you want to continue the alliance or not. And so that trust element really turns it all of a sudden into a team game. Or do you go it alone? There's a lot of great strategic decisions in this game. Also, either game offers tons of factions, well, not tons, but 6 factions, each with very interesting asymmetrical abilities. So the game does reward you for learning more about it, understanding how the factions work, and if you enjoy it, you'll want to come back over and over again to try out all the different asymmetrical abilities. Dune or Rex are great, great games. Finally, coming in at number 1, my favorite game of all time to play with 6 players. Is it a surprise? Probably not. Twilight Imperium, 4th edition. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I love Twilight Imperium. And I think this game is just the quintessential 6-player game. I will play Twilight at less players, but 6 is where it shines. Twilight Imperium is a space opera where you are the leader of a faction trying to establish yourself as the new galactic empire. You will betray people, make alliances with people, trade and negotiate. You'll vote on laws, you'll work together, you'll work against each other. It shifts every round, sometimes multiple times in between rounds. The game gives you so much that you can do. Strategy as well as intrigue. The game is so fun to build up your civilization with technology, be crafty at trades and negotiations. Everything is in this game. And I could talk forever about it, but I won't. If you ever put off playing Twilight Imperium because you're afraid of the length of time, don't be. Try it. Spending all day with your friends playing a game this rich will be rewarding, and you won't be upset you did. So there it is. There's my list of 10 games that I love to play at 6 players. What are some of your favorite games at 6 players? Have you tried all the ones on my list? Which ones are you excited to try? Let me know in the comments. Stay tuned for my next video where I'll talk about my favorite 5-player games. And as always, give me a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.